22,704. 22704. That's the amount of days I've been waking up by my Heavenly Father with breath in my body, blood running through my streams, as the old folks would say, and living. That's a lot of days. That's a lot of days, and I'm hoping to see many more. Appreciate God, you being so gracious and kind to me and allow me to do and wake up every morning and give you thanks. It's Mark Elliott, Mr. DeMaurice, Mr. Charles. We put us all together. It's called When Black Men Talk. A few weeks ago, or a few episodes ago, we talked about DeMaurice. He shared that he was diagnosed with diabetes too. And since then, he talked about it some, but I want him to go back because I've been thinking about this. A lot of people are basically walking around with diabetes too, and they're basically just living with it, taking their medication and feeling like there's not more they can do. But Mr. Reason, I think of you, man. I look at you as being a walking miracle, boss. Nothing shy of that. And I think sometimes we look for thunder and lightning for it to be a miracle. But when you think about it, hasn't been that long you've been diagnosed, and you share with us, a couple of episodes ago that you've been taking off another medication. Come on, man. Bring us to 411 one more time.
Yeah, I was diagnosed back in August of last year, and my doctor was saying that I probably had it for a long time, but I didn't know it. And when I think I was in the hospital when they finally just settled me down and checked me out, my A1C was at a 12, which I was probably supposed to be in a coma, to be honest with you. And I didn't know what I was doing to get that high, but I guess it was not managed for so long. It just kept rising and rising and rising. So my first checkup was it reduced down A1C down to a 6. Also, the last checkup is still around that, and it's getting a little lower. Um, and I was on like about 4 medications, and now I'm down to 2, and I'm working towards getting rid of both of those medications. My next visit is in August to check up, but yeah, because I had high cholesterol, my pressure was a little high, higher than it should be, and it was borderline high blood pressure, but that's down. No cholesterol issues, no heart issues, no kidney, liver issues. The only medication that I really take is, I guess it's metformin, and they have me on a low dosage of a blood pressure medicine, but it's not for blood pressure. It's to protect the kidneys from the other medications. Yeah, my doctor is really was really encouraging me to keep up what I was doing. I do have bouts where I would come like my grandmother and say, "You know what? I'm gonna eat when I want to eat," and that's it. Every time I do it, I think of her. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna eat it, whatever, and I'll deal with it later. But yeah, still working out. I'm trying to get to a point where I'm getting off the medication because the side effects it hurts. It makes the joints very painful. And I got to fight through workouts and fight through training and stuff like that to get my energy up to do those things. And sometimes it's very difficult getting out of bed sometimes because of the body soreness. But I'm working through those. It's a daily struggle, but I want to see the end of the tunnel on this. So I do believe I was given this to kind of help other folks see it and realize that they can reverse it, and that's my goal, is to try to reverse this, because I've been reading a lot and talking to a lot of people who say I talk to people in my family who say that they don't have to take the medication anymore, or they take it just as a precaution, but they eat what they want to eat because they did a good job of managing their blood sugar. So um, don't let anybody tell you that type 2 diabetes is a life sentence. It can be reversed. I'm in the process of doing that now. And like I said, hopefully by August, I won't be under any medication, or very, very little medication, if any, at that particular point.
Look at God. Look at God. It's interesting, man. And I want to thank you for sharing because a lot of times I've heard people that been diagnosed have diabetes for a while, and they just say, "Well, it runs in my family," and they act like that's enough just to have it for the rest of their life, and it's not. It really isn't, man. So I'm grateful to hear. I'm happy also to hear, man, how you took it head on and did what you did. Mr. Charles, how you feeling, boss?
I'm good, bro. I'm good.
All right. I'm check on you, man. Make sure you're all right over there. Gentlemen, basically, we're in the month of March. So if you think about it, Mr. DeBree started back in August. So you figure he's been really handling this and bringing his numbers down for what? I'll say 6 months for the most part. That's awesome for 6 months. Absolutely awesome. We're in the month of March. They tell me this is Women's Month for the most part. So we want to salute women and basically say this is your month. Enjoy it all year long. I'm sorry, all month long. In reality, we salute and honor. We should be saluting and honor women all year long, just not in the month of March. They've made great contributions to this country. They make great contributions to our daily lives. So we should never overlook the fact their role and things that they have done to basically allow our life to be exactly what it is. With that in mind, I came across two women I wanted to kind of speak on, and one of them is a young lady, 12 years old in Connecticut. A few years back when COVID was going on and they was afraid to allow the kids to come into school, this young lady invented an air filter system to circulate the system around the school building and in different classrooms. So it caught on. People started paying attention and they brought different people in and her invention basically got patent and she just picked up 11.5 million to basically to install more air filter systems throughout the state of Connecticut and other states for that matter. You think about it. The young lady is basically 12 years old. Her name, if I'm saying this incorrectly, please give me a pass on it. Anoya Shikaboka. This young lady has done her work. At 12 years old, I think I was basically talking on CB radio. I wasn't inventing anything for that matter. And a young lady too that we talked about recently on the sports show, and we were saying she's not getting enough pub, not enough attention, and that may change. USC women's college basketball superstar Juju Watkins basically has signed an exclusive multi-year trading card deal and a mobilia deal with Fanatics Collectibles. Now I know we came up as kids, Mr. DeMaurice. Trading cards was huge, so they must be trying to bring them back. But when you think about it, when trading cards was really at its peak, we didn't really have trading cards with women on them. So to me, the mere fact that she's basically breaking through and has this, signed deal, I think it's something to be talked about. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a big deal because we used to have to go to the store, buy a pack of cards, get the bubble gum. It's the bubble gum that the flavor went out like in the first three chews, and we had our trading cards. And there were no women, and there were women's sports, but there were no trading cards with women on it, and so that's a great accomplishment. I'm thinking that I know now a lot of people go digital. They have the digital cards, so I'm not sure if they're going to do the hard, cards that we used to have or go digital, because they spend a pretty penny for those digital cards. And I have a buddy here in Chicago who buys a lot of those cards of Jordan and all those other folks, but he has like a digital kind of site where he keeps his cards. So it's a great accomplishment, And Juju, like I said on the sports show, it's like she's doing all these great things, and she's only a sophomore, and so we get to see her 2 more years, hopefully at USC, before she goes to the WNBA. But we need to be giving her flowers right now because she is something special.
Yes, she truly is, man. We was talking. I was thinking I saw in a TV commercial not too long ago. I think it was State Farm. I was happy to see on that as well. Mr. Charles, when you hear that she's basically signed a deal with the Fanatics Collectibles, your reaction to it?
No, I think it's a good thing. I'm happy for her, but I'm also happy from the standpoint of the factor that this is can open the door for so many others to receive opportunities as well. So happy for her from that standpoint. She's a very hard nosed, physical player who has finesse as well. There's a lot of expectations on her. And what I mean by that, we know how good she is. But when you really look at it, I was watching a show with Cheryl Miller on, and how many great players came out of USC, from Lisa Leslie, the McGee twins. There's a lot, and Cheryl Miller, and so many others, right? That there's a that legacy is major. We just look at modern day, but you look at that legacy, it's a lot for her to live up to, and she's done real well, according with leading, including leading her team in a very difficult situation in the tournament, the conference tournament, moving to the Big Ten. So happy for her. Hopefully, more other young ladies will get the opportunity to have as much, chance to make a little money and do some things, and get that exposure as well.
Sounds good. If you could count the number of real true friends you have on your hands, you're fortunate. Because a lot of times as we move through life, sometimes we realize a friend may not be a friend, or we think they're a friend, and in reality, they may not be there. You need them to be a friend. But a friend loves at all times. A brother is born from adversity. If I'm correct, that's Proverbs 17:17. So a true friend will love you no matter what. But when adversity comes, that's when the brother part kicks in, or sister part kicks in. I'm gonna roll this back to you, Mr. Jones, because I know we all have a lot of associates, but when you think about it, when you really kind of think about it, are they in the friend zone, or would you kind of move some of your friends into that brother zone?
I have a few that would move over to the brother or the sister zone, uh, because they understand who I am, and they recognize. I think I'm really big on people that know you from a certain point, and then you develop your relationship on, and they accept you no matter what. And I'm always big on that because that's how a couple of members of my family were. They didn't care if you had $1 or $1 million. They just it was about you. So yeah, I think it would do that. But I think you would move them forward. So I don't know. I think I'm very selective in who I is in my circle, because, as I think we said on the show before, that circle for me, that close circle of friends that are like family, or you consider family, their expectations. And therefore, if I know that a person's not capable, or they may not be ready for those responsibilities, vice versa, then I'll just keep you as a companion, or as an associate, which is fine. I mean, we can't get along, hang out, but there's a lot to that, and vice versa. When you have people that really are considered part of your true inner circle.
A friend loves at all time, Mr. DeMaurice, but a brother is born from adversity. Adversity. Then that's when you kind of really find out who's in your corner. Because, you're just hanging out and, things going lovely. They all could be around you for them. But when adversity kind of kicks in, where are they?
Yeah,
Where are they? Can they be found?
yeah. I mean, I've been in a lot of situations where adversity has hit me, and you find out who your friends are really. I remember years ago in Chicago, um, I was getting ready to move, and I'd already moved, and I had lost my position at a job I was working at for a long time. They went belly up, and I was just out. And so a buddy of mine, his name is Eric Dockery. He's a principal of Edgar Allan Poe School here in Chicago. We had met years ago. I met him through his brother because I knew his brother before I knew him, and we just had the same kind of likes and dislikes. And um, I know a lot of my friends love the Little Rascals, and we'd always crack up. And years later, he bought me a collector's item set of the Little Rascals, all the DVDs, all the shows. So I still go back and watch them from time to time. That's a friend, brother. That's a friend. So I was telling them, I'm like, hey man, I think I'm gonna pack up and try to move to either stay with my father or get out of Chicago, man. So maybe this is it. Maybe I need to leave. And he just told me, he's like, you can't go. You can't go. And I was like, yo, man, I mean, I'm at the bottom of the barrel. I got to do something. and he said, "How much do you think you need to keep you here and get you settled again?" I said, "Probably about $4 or $5 grand." He said, "I'll be right there." And so I'm not thinking he bringing money. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking he's coming to, to check me out. And he handed me a check as soon as he saw me. He said, "Don't worry about paying it back. Pay it back when you can." He said, "But you can't leave Chicago. You got to stay here. You got to stay here, bro. So you need it here." And within 2 weeks, I landed another job, and I got a $10,000 advance to be a consultant for this mental health facility. And that a guy that knew about me and wanted me to be a consultant, he was looking for me for a while, and hit him back with it. He's like, "Yo, man, you got on your feet that fast?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, God is good, man." And I got on my feet that fast. But he didn't know that. He didn't know it was going to turn around that quickly. But he was like, you know, when I was in need, he didn't even hesitate. And I know I have just very few people who could do that. I never asked him for the money. He just said, "How much you think you need?" And so when times were tough and when times were at dire strait, you have that. And I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I know when we talk, it's going to be like we just saw each other yesterday. And so I've been there for him when he lost his mom. He lost his dad, in big events in his life. I'm the godfather of his child, his only child. And so even though we don't see each other a lot and talk to each other a lot because we're both really busy, if he called right now, I'd figure out a way to get to him and help him out. And I know he'd do the same for me.
Yeah. That's what I like, man. That's what I like. I have that with a few cats where we ain't got to talk all the time. We don't have to kind of really check on each other. Holidays and stuff can go by. Nothing has to be said. But if the phone rings or something happens on both sides of the aisle, we know that person is going to be there. They're just going to be there. And that's to me is just realness, man. That is realness. Because some people feel, they got to be up in your face. They got to be saying, not being sincere, just kind of say some things and go through the motions. But, again, they're born out of adversity. And when that time kicks in, there's no question. There's nothing to be talked about. It just basically happens naturally. I want to throw a thought out that came across to my mind a little while ago. Hear but not seen. And when I say that, a lot of time as men, we're visible, but at the same time, we are invisible. And part of that is because we're expected to basically provide, offer up stuff, do certain things. But outside of that, we're not seen, Mr. DeMaurice. We're not really kind of looked upon as basically having emotions or anything of that nature, be to care for or anything. Just basically, we're an instrument or tool to provide certain things to the masses, not only to, in our relation, but kind of to the masses when you think about it. Um, there was a podcast or episode I did a while ago with Dr. Schwartz, and I was kind of talking about this. And she said when she kind of researched fathers or men, she wanted to go back and research what they were saying about men. She'd say if she went back 30 years and there was nothing written, it was all basically on the woman.
Mm.
How invisible is that? She said she had to go way back, way back. Now you talk about invisible, realistically. And it's funny because not in a comical sense, but we don't think about that. As men, we just kind of live in that sense, and we just kind of float along from day to day life. But as men, do we feel invisible? That's the question for you, sir, Mr. DeMaurice.
Yeah. I think we're taken for granted. And because we live in a patriarchal society, and a patriarch, um, it's like the world, men built the world, so that's all they need. They don't need much. We're providers. We're the ones. We're the hunter gatherers and things of that sort. But we're taken for granted about our feelings, how we're treated by each other as well as our women. Um, And if we're not careful, we can lose a lot of brothers because we're not really checking on them to see how they're doing. So I'll give you a good example of that. Just last night, um, I've been thinking about one of our classmates who passed away, B More, and I saw it on Charles's feed, and I didn't want to call him right away because I know him and B More were tight. They were good, but I knew he was hurting. So last night I'm like, are you good, bro? Because he's been quiet for a while, and he said, give me a call, and so we talked. And we laughed about some things about, we were in school and reminiscing about stuff. I talked to my other boy, Eddie, who knew B More. And Eddie kept talking to me about, you ever see the San Francisco episode where Junior Cooper dies and all of them are sitting in the living room? And Grady keeps talking about Junior Cooper and Fred G. Sanford is trying to get off the subject. That's how I felt with me and Eddie. Eddie was like, man, we up next, man. We the seniors now. And I'm like, Eddie, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk. Let's find something else to talk about. But we, I don't think we check on each other enough, man. We don't check on each other enough. We don't. There's another buddy of mine who lives in D.C. He just called last week to say, man, I'm just checking in. I'm checking in on you and another guy that we used to hang out a lot. Because I think we have a thankless job. I know I've raised a stepchild. I don't hear from that stepchild. I don't think about. I put a lot of money and time and energy into that relationship, but I'm not. I'm getting that back, and this is a thankless job. That men are supposed to do certain things without saying thank you or I appreciate you, or that you're very important in this world and in this process and in our lives. And so I think we need to do that not only to each other, but our elders, the older men in our families. I can't tell you how many times I tell that to my father all the time. Like, man, don't ever think you're a burden, or that you don't, you're not crossing my mind. What do you need if you need anything? So because if we kind of let guys kind of linger, we get into our own little world, man, and we shut people off, and we get depressed, man. We get depressed, and we do things that are harmful to ourselves sometimes because we feel like nobody cares, and it could be directly or indirectly because nobody's kind of taking the time out to say, hey, are you okay? Are you good? Let me come by and see how you doing. Let me take you out to eat. Let me do something to show my appreciation that you are here and that you're appreciated.
Yeah. It's interesting, I'm going to piggyback of what you said. There was a gentleman that I used to work with years ago, and we didn't work in the same department, but I didn't even know this cat's name. But you see him all the time. We were just calling each other and just saying some things back and forth. Well, he left to become a police officer, and I ran into him a couple of times when he was a police officer. His whole thing was becoming a police officer, you get a chance to retire after 20 years, and you move on. Well, um, his 20th came, and he decided to keep working extra. So there was a person that got arrested that they put in the back of an ambulance, and they didn't seat belt the person in. And the cat basically was bounced around inside the paddy wagon as the truck was driving and literally broke his neck. So when they pulled him to the police station, the police officers that were there, the guy was making noise and they rough handled him in a sense. And he was one of the guys there, they had it on video. So when it all came down, the officers that were at the station all got terminated. He was one of them. Now he's past retirement, and the driver basically didn't fear any of that. So I ran into him after it kind of settled down, and him and I was talking. He just started talking. I said, "Hey man, what's really going on?" And he just unloaded, man. He just unloaded, and he said that the one of the worst things is for him. He said, I could retire sooner, and I chose not to. And he said, people now that don't even know him, see him from that video, the way they look at him, and just kind of out of disgust. And he says, that's what I'm walking around with. And I said to him, bro, we all do things sometimes in life. We're at certain places, certain times, and things just happen. I said, that's not who you are, man. I know who you are, and that's not you. So don't take that on. Something happened. Life is life, but don't live with that, man. You gotta let that day go. And just to have that conversation, I could see him lighten up some. And he was carrying that heavy load. And that's where communication, conversations as men, just to push beyond I'm okay, damn I'm okay stuff, man. Sometimes you got to push beyond that and really get somebody to open up and really share, because as men we're not always taking that initiative. We're afraid what we're going to say you may not understand, how you're going to give it back to us. But that invisibilityness, we got to cut that out, man. We got to start to be seen, start to be heard. Because as you said, Mr. Reese, we're walking around. We may talk about that a little later. We're walking around feeling depressed. And a lot of us do that. And it may sound simple, but a lot of us do that, man. We're turning to alcohol. We're turning to things to self-medicate. And those things are not good. Not good at all. But Mr. Charles, I want to, bring it to you as well, man, because as men, I think sometimes we feel a sense of being invisible. Even though we're here, we have that sense of not being seen. Your reaction to it?
No, I agree with that, and I think it also for me, I think it depends on the man. I think everybody needs to be checked on. I agree with that, but I think when it comes to invisibility, that there are certain men that depends on how you were not so much raised, but how you deal with life and adversity, right? And I'm not saying one man is stronger than the next, but I just think people cope differently. And I think that we need to check on more individuals. What I find ironic is the Deaver Breweries called, and I was appreciative of it, but I'm so used to dealing with death, man, off and on from time to time, since I was a youngster, that I just kind of put it in a compartment. And I have what I have to get to deal with it, and then I not so much move on, but I deal with it in that way. So I really appreciate him reaching out. But what I find ironic is you mentioned about being invisible, but we as men are supposed to be the ones that are there for everybody else, the protectors. And what I'm realizing is, or I have realized is, over the years, the number of people that have called me and made me their confidants, right? And I'm not special, nothing like that. I think it's just the way the Lord works. And I've been their confidants and whatnot. And then a couple people got mad at me recently because they said something, and I just kind of go, yeah, okay. And I said, well, did you ever think about this? Or I asked them something about, we were talking about it, and they got offended. And they're like, well, you're not really down for me no more. I'm like, what are you talking about? But the whole point of it coming down to it was, I think when you're sometimes a confidant and you're being that protector, and even when you're invisible, sometimes you get in conversations with people and you're listening, and it's always about those people.
Mm.
Always about them people. Probably 80, 95%. They never ask how
How
you
you?
doing. Not even giving a fuck. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm cool because I'm used to it now, right? But some people just over the top, and I'm like, well, you don't really want to help brother out. I'm like, you are 45 years old. What the fuck are you talking about? You're not a child. And I wanted to say that so bad. I said, look, I'm gonna need a moment. Let me get back to you. But it's just sometimes when you think about it, certain people, not everybody, but certain people just take it for granted, and it's always about them. Not, hey man, what's going on? How you doing? What did you do today? What you doing? You got anything coming up? Well, it's always about them, and then they want to come at you crazy or act like you're just supposed to be there regardless. And then when you might say, I'm not available or I got something to do, then they want to get out of pocket. I'm like, damn. And truthfully, I'm going to say this real quick because I'm going to get off of this. Some certain times with certain people, I'm like, if you just don't give a damn about me and you think you just taking this for granted, shit, you already got a therapist, don't you?
Mm.
Keeping it 100. And you over here, you get double action. It is free and to glory to God that I can help you. But Don't come out the pocket now because you tripping. You didn't get like what you're looking for. But my point of what all this is, it would be interesting. It would be nice for people that are receiving help from a confidant or something from time to time, just to go, hey man, hey, what's going on? I really appreciate you. Blah blah blah. I don't need that because I'm gonna do what I do anyway. But I know other people be like, damn, this motherfucker called 29 times is always about you. Damn. So yeah, we can be invisible. To answer your question. Sorry for that
Well,
rant.
no, man, that's cool. But because you basically showed how they're looking at. They don't see you, bro. They don't see you. Realistically, they're not looking at you. They're basically contacting you. Let me say this too. You are special, by the way. You say you're not special. You are, bro. You are very special. But they're contacting you for you to basically comply with what they want to hear. And when you don't comply with that, then they have a problem with you. They don't see you. And that's why they're not asking. I have basically, when people have called me sometimes and they start talking, but I'm like, well, my day was pretty good. How was your day? Because I'm going to force you to see I'm here. It's not about just unloading you just talking. There's a friend of mine, he might be listening. For years, man, this cat, him and I went to high school together. We went to with high school there, we were boys. But it got to the point where he kept doing dumb shit and want me to sit around and listen to it. And I'm like, bro, I'm not here for that with you. You're making some bad decisions. You're doing some things, and I just don't want to always hear about it. Now, we can get together and have drinks or whatever, but it's not going to be. I'm sitting at a bar with you for an hour. You run around about your bad decisions. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to unload all that. Then we talk about something else. So I think sometimes too, you got to watch how you manage those people. This cat now has been trying to call me for the past several months, whatever. I don't pick his phone up. I don't pick the phone up for him. And he leave messages and I'm avoiding him. No, I'm not avoiding. I done tune you out because over the years you haven't grown up, my brother. You haven't. You probably still doing the same dumb things we did back in our 20s, but you want an ear to basically listen to you. No. Sometimes you got to be your own freaking therapist. You got to know when you're screwing up. You got to know when you ain't doing things right. Just me listening to you for the most part, which he basically wants. No, you're trying to find some validation. That's what you want for your stupidness. And a lot of times we don't make people see what they need to see. They're going to keep coming because they're using you in a sense as a pillow, a place to come basically run things down. Basically, if you don't make them see the truth or they don't hear the truth, you're a pillow. You become a pillow. In the meantime, you're getting frustrated, and I'm nobody's pillow. I'm no one's pillow. I'm gonna come back to you, Mr. Charles, with this one because I think part of the way too, masculinity, that word right there, what it is and how it goes about in life, plays a part in the invisibility because people look at masculinity as this big brutal thing and they don't attach nothing else to it. True or false?
I say true. I think what's bizarre about masculinity for me is I think for a lot of people, particularly for some women, masculinity is connected for some people for being loud, right? So it's like a show of force. Like I'm gonna show you I'm a man by how I react to something. You can still have masculinity and do what you need to do as a man, and sometimes not utter a word until it's needed, right? And I know the old school way was to go, yeah, I'm gonna show you here. What a man would do would be this. No, a man would handle his business when he needs to. And if every time something happens, I gotta put up my raise my hand up and show you that I'm masculine by being loud or some other way. That's not what it's always about masculinity, man. And I think that's a misnomer that a lot of people are confused on. A man handles business when he has to, not on everything. It's like no disrespect to the dead, but like Pete Rose when he played baseball, may he rest in peace. Every time he made a play, he was diving on the ground. Sometimes it's a routine damn play. Just coming to third base, throw the ball to first. You ain't got to dive on the ground. It's almost like you looking for attention. Anyway.
That's true. Masculinity, sometimes people think that, if I'm loud, obnoxious, That's masculine, and that's what men's supposed to be. That's going to get them attention. In reality, that's foolish. It's really foolish. Mr. DeMarie's masculinity, I believe it plays a part in us being invisible, because I think sometimes when you overstate trying to be masculine, as Mr. Charles basically said, I think sometimes people kind of feel like, you know what, you know, if you're doing all that, you have all this, going on. It may not be a soft side to you. True or false?
Yeah, I think that there's some truth to that. And the other thing is that masculinity over the last few years have been turned into something negative. And folks, and it's not, masculinity is not negative. And it's been turned into something that you shouldn't be. And it, to me, I always tell people when they're like, come up with the term toxic masculinity. I always say, well, if you have toxic masculinity, you got to have toxic femininity. And well, what do you mean by that? I said, because being feminine is being feminine. I don't look at that as something that is negative. And being masculine is being a man and being who you are. And I don't look at that as negative. So if you're going to use the term toxic masculinity, you're going to have to start using the term toxic femininity, because and if you don't want to do that, then you cannot put they're two opposite things: toxic and masculinity. They don't go together. There are some toxic men and there are some toxic women, but to kind of just put that in a broad brush and say masculinity, toxic masculinity, if you think like that, then you're toxic. No, it's not that. So it's been taken in a way or accepted in a way in society like it's something wrong with it. And that's why you got some of the folks who are, being a little bit gender fluid with their clothing and all that other stuff. And I was just telling a buddy the other day, it's like, you know what, I'm a man, I'm going to dress like a man. I don't care what anybody says. That's not the way I was taught. I was taught by men how to be a man. And there was nothing negative in doing that. They were teaching what they've learned over the years and passing it down. And so when you have a society that wants to pin you in that corner of being toxic, and that masculinity is something negative, you will be ignored. You will be looked over because people are looking at you in a negative light. And what do we do with negativity? We tend not to associate ourselves with anything negative.
Yeah. Depression, anxiety, suicide, man. To me, those are kind of like branches that come from that invisibility. Think about this for a second. Go with the depression, anxiety, suicide. A man basically that is kind of, for the most part, I know you spoke earlier, Mr. Reese, we spoke of your stepchild. A man that has basically give to his family throughout his life, helped set up the foundation, security, provide, did all these things. And he gets to a certain point of life, and it seemed like they're not grateful for it. They don't really care. Don't even understand to kind of basically pay it back in a sense, even with simple words. You know, that itself can strike some things inside of us mentally. It really can. Plays a part of mental health. In a sense that I'm not going to say it can lead to depression or anxiety, but you start to, have all these different things that weigh on you. And a lot of times, in a sense, for men, to me, it's kind of unspoken for men. We basically will go out and want to provide a living for the most part. But at the same time, we're always thinking in the back of our mind, what if I'm not able to do such? Because, much is expected from us. What if I walk into my place of employment tomorrow and they tell me I'm no longer needed? What's there? Because we tie a lot into our employment as men. We just do. We tie a lot into basically making a living. So imagine if you walked in tomorrow and the plug is basically pulled off where you worked. That brings on a lot of anxiety. Just the thought of that possibility. If you look around now with things that's going on, and I'm not saying women aren't facing this either, but if you look around like right now, there are a lot of workers that are being told you may not have a job tomorrow. You may not. You have all these bills, you have your mortgage, you have your car payments, saving for the future, all these things that can go up in smoke. And if you're walking around thinking this, that anxiety, which can, partly lead into depression, that's a mental health that you add to the point of being invisible, Mr. Maurice. It's got to bring on something, my brother. It's got to bring on something. And I hate to use the word this, if you're not a strong individual, if you're weak, man, what could it lead to? Your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, we've been put into the role of the provider. There is a lot of pressure being a man. We're looked upon as being the end all be all to do something to make things happen. A woman can go, if you're married, a woman can go and she can lose her job, but she has that stability if she has a husband who's working. Okay, I can be out of work for a while. I can stay home for a while. We don't have that option. We don't have that option. We got to make it happen. We've been put in a society where we're expected to pay on the first date. We're expected to do so many things as a man that women and modern women have told us that you're expected to do that. I've looked at so many videos where um, there are a man and woman go out to eat and her friends come and he's expected to pay for everybody. Those are the pressures that are put on us in the society because if you look at social services, there are programs, tons of programs for women and children, but nothing for men. Nothing. No, no. Very rarely do you have mental health services. You have services that help men who have, hit, rock bottom or lost a job, things of that sort. We just got to make it happen. They say pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of society. So some men use that and use that for their privilege. Black men can't use that as privilege because of the way society is. But it's so much pressure, and I know it's hard for women too. But it's so much pressure put on men to make things happen. When all else fails, you're dependent on that man to make it happen. That's a lot of pressure when you can't make it happen, or the powers that be won't let you that happen. Then what do you do? What do you do when you're told that you're supposed to fulfill this role and you're unable to do it? How does that make that person feel?
Hmm. It's a lot of pressure there, Mr. Charles. If you think about it, man. I was speaking of, depression, anxiety, suicide. Those are three things, man. When you think about invisibility, they're not that far from it. When you really kind of pull back the covers and think about it, they're not that far. So I want to get your reaction to it.
Yeah, I think it's tough because you mentioned earlier about men expecting to carry the load and doing things and then not receiving any recognition for that. Um, it's just expected. You're supposed to take care of everyone. You're supposed to make sure that they're good. I've seen that in certain situations with family members, also friends. The man's always expected to do that. But as you mentioned, you never know. You never know what the load that a man is carrying, as you mentioned earlier. You never know what's going on that job. You never know what a person has to do to get that extra money. Because if you had children, most kids just want what they want. And if they are accustomed to living a certain lifestyle, they're never really accustomed to being told no because the money's always there. I has been. But what if the money's not there? Then that man has that pressure of finding a way to hustle to get it. Hopefully he has it or he can find it. Or if he can't, some people don't have side hustles. So therefore, they would rather almost do anything in the world but tell their child no. And that's crazy to me. But I get it because they don't want to disappoint them. But a lot of men are like that. And as you mentioned, when we say the word weak or I like to use the term more maybe emotionally unstable, right? So if you're not that strong in that area, it can unravel. Then your life can go crazy, it can go sideways, as we mentioned earlier, and you have difficulty dealing with that because that's a lot of pressure. But we as men are not expected to uh, cry. Damn sure ain't expected to cry out. And if you cry out and say, "I need help," oh Lord, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I had to leave that week. Yeah, all that other. Really? Yeah, he wasn't ready. A real man would have done this. No, 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 no. Sometimes you got to realize that. there's more to being a real man than what's provided monetarily. The other things, as
Yeah.
far as the lessons and things like that, go a long way. So a man may not have a lot of money or enough money, but he's there to help with the situation or deal with the situation and be understanding. That goes a lot more longer because the money can run out, and the money does not always buy happiness.
Remember years ago, man, this was happening kind of frequent or way too much, where men were basically losing their jobs in a lot of debt. Yeah, I hope have families, and they were taking their lives,
Yeah, yeah,
jumping off, yeah, pulling the bridges, jumping off bridges, and doing certain things. And when they came out with the story, they said, "Well, he was in debt." You say to yourself, "Okay, why would someone take that such angle?" Because they couldn't really handle coming home and saying to their loved ones, I can't do this no more. Things what life as we've known it and has been accustomed to and used to, I can't provide that anymore. So they rather take their own life than to face that. Imagine that type of pressure. Just imagine that. And for the most part, when those things happen, they didn't feel too sorry for him. I've heard people say, "I wonder how the wife is going to make out now. The man
yeah,
is dead.
yeah, yeah,
the man, the man, he's dead."
yeah,
And it's like, they worry how she's going to make out. Like she can't work someplace, whatever. Like God is not going to provide. But that's some serious pressure. So when we speak of the depression, anxiety, and suicide, this stuff is real. It's real, and men are facing this on a daily basis, and no one really talks about it. Unless something like that happens, then it gets attention for a short period of time. But realistically, that goes on. I mean, there was a period of time when young men were basically taking their lives because their girlfriend was breaking up with them, breaking up. And you think we talked about masculinity. You would think that they would be able to think their way through that, but no, their self-esteem with their masculinity wasn't where could have been. So the mere fact that she decided that she didn't want to be in his life, he decided this is the thing to do. And again, it gets looked over like well, he could have done other things. No, because that's the pressure young and older men are walking with. That's what they're living with on a daily basis and quietly living with. And that's when I say about being invisible. That's what we're speaking of. That's what's really coming down to pipe. Gentlemen, we're going to throw some questions in before we get out of here. Mr. DeReese, I'll come to you if you have a question, sir.
I'm gonna defer to Charles since we missed him last week.
All right, Mr. Charles, if you have a question, my brother.
Yeah, thanks, D. Maurice. Anyway. You know what I just said, don't you, D. Maurice? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So the question is, when you think about, let's just say this. I know you guys did songs last week. I'm gonna follow that up. When you think about your life, and you had two songs to describe your life, it can be in the here now, in the present, or before. What two words? What two songs would you use to describe your life?
Man, you got to give us a week for that, Mr. Charles. That's like we'll bring that next week, my brother, because I can't. I know I can't speak for Mr. Reese, but in a matter of minutes, man, that's a good one too. That's a very good one. Yeah, but there's so many things out there. Wow, I'd have to kind of really spend some time on that, man. And for myself, I'll address that next week. Mr. Reese, you have anything?
Yeah, that's
Are you?
a song, and I got goosebumps thinking about it too. It's a song by Desiree, and it's called "You Gotta Be," and she was in the way she was describing what your life has to be in the song. It's like you're learning from the past. You're learning from your father, your mother. You're learning from all this stuff, and it usually kind of gets me inspired. That song, and then towards the end of the bridge, she says, uh, you know that love will save the day. No matter what you do, no matter what you're into, love is going to save the day. Love got you. I think she put that in there to substitute God, or I always look at the word love and think of God anyway. But that's the way I took that song by Desiree. And it's like a really mid-tempo song, but it's a very inspiring song by her. And every time I hear it, it inspires me a lot to, no matter what I'm going through, I got to make it, and regardless of all, love will save the day.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I still have nothing, Mr. Charles. I'm gonna try to, delay that to next week, man. But here again, awesome question, man. What song or song or two that you have, sir?
Yeah, I can think about a lot, and I might delay mine too. But I do have one, and I think it's the way that, as I've gotten older, it's about your approach to life, right? I mean, I always think that sometimes, even when we're in a work situation or we're really sad, uh, the way that you deal with things and the way that you approach life, and what I mean by that, even when you're down or you having times where things are just not working right, if you just go, man, you get so depressed or down, then that can affect the rest of your day or whatever, weeks or whatever. But if you look at it a certain way, you can move forward. But it's all about how you approach things. Not saying you got to be happy when things go wrong, but it's how do you approach things. And the song is particularly for right now. One of them is by Sade, and it's called "Sweetest Taboo." And me and my one buddy Stan is from Philadelphia, man. We crack up every time we talk about this because it's like, yo, man, you can. I mean, if something's really bad, you want to talk to somebody, you should or whatever. But you have to have an approach, and it's like, are you gonna be happy today? Are you gonna feel good about yourself today? Are you gonna be positive? Are you gonna control what you can today and not be so depressed and gloomy, particularly when things are going well and you have the opportunity to do so. And in Sweetest Taboo, the verse goes, you need to approach life as if every day is Christmas. Because you know, as kids, most people grew up enjoying Christmas or loving Christmas or thinking Christmas was a good thing, right? And she says every day is Christmas, and you need to approach every night like it's New Year's Eve. Everybody gets excited about New Year's Eve. Man, back in the day when you was young, what would you want to do? We about to go out. We about to turn up. So every day is Christmas and every night is New Year's Eve. If you had that positivity in the way that you think, man, how could you not? And surround yourself with great people. How could you not be feel real good about who you are and where you are in life?
These two gentlemen bring it, ladies and gentlemen. This is what they do. Put it all together. It's when black men talk. We're gonna leave right there for now, gentlemen. We get together again in 6, 7 days and do it all over again. Mr. Charles, Mr. Maurice, Mark, Elliott. Always want to thank you for giving us the air, giving us the time, and giving us a listen. You know, God loves you. Guess what? We do too. Take care of yourself.